Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
me, Rob. And let's talk about some defense players before this draft.
Let's talk about the Tom Selleck look you're sporting today here, between the Hawaiian shirt, the mustache, and all.
Yes.
I just feel like you're driving is an '84 Ferrari, I believe you had in that show.
I have an '86 IROC, right?
The IROCs, they were awesome back in the day. Bring it back, GM.
T-tops and all.
Oh, go for it. Oh,
it's gonna go all out.
Spectacular. Bring back the bandit.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's get into today's topic of edge rushers. We're gonna get right into it. We have a ton of edge rushers to go over. I think this breaks a record for most players we've done in one episode at one position we're to do today, because we get 17 edge rushers to go over. Now, we've done 20 players at a position before. We broke it up into two episodes. This is 17 edge rushers we're going to do today. And the crazy thing is, we talked about each episode, like, hey, this is not a good class for this group. This is a really good class for this group. Like, there's weaknesses here. Let's be honest. The weakness is a wide receiver, a lot of the offensive line, especially center. There's weaknesses, at a lot of things here, but there's also strengths: running back, defensive tackles. Guess what? Edge rushers is one of them. We're going to go through 17, and I'm telling you right now, guys, by Friday night, these 17 are all off the board probably. That's how good a class this is at the edge rusher position. There's not a whole bunch of guys that are like, oh my God, this is the top guy kind of guy. There's obviously one. We'll talk about him at length here because he might be a giant. But in the end, there's a ton of guys that if you need edge depth, like legit edge depth, not the guy who sits in the bench you hope to never need, but the guy that legit plays a role in your team, you bring in spot starts, that kind of stuff. This is the absolutely the draft for you if that's what you need. So as Jay says, that means 17 spam videos posted tomorrow. No, I might have to post 10 though. To be honest, guys, we're getting backed up here trying to get all these prospects out to you guys before the draft. So we're going to definitely be loading up on more videos, and keep in mind, YouTube will only give you up to 5 videos per day to notify people. So if you don't get them all and you want to watch them individually, just go onto YouTube. There is literally a playlist of draft players. So, Jason, how do I know if it's a live video or a cut up? Well, you see, the live video will have the word live.
Yeah. It'll just tell you at the bottom.
It's crazy. It'll say live right on text.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday at 9:00.
Yeah.
Except for next week when it comes to the draft.
It'll say live on the thumbnail. If it's not live, it won't say it. Crazy concept. Anyway, now that we're done making fun of Jay, he goes, you have the fake live decals in the thumbnail. No, we don't. I'll show you the first one here. We're going to have. There's no live. There's no live at all.
Yeah.
So
actually has your name.
Well, that's because he's still up on the screen there at that point there. But yeah, if you go to one, Jay, that we're doing live, it's going to literally have a thumbnail like this saying the big old live above our logo. If it doesn't, and it just has the logo, it's not a live. It's just a video portion that we did, a segment of one of the live shows. So that's how you know. And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe, a real American hero. As I lose everything. There we go. There's the logo again. Woo. Anyway, back to the edge rushers, which we haven't even started yet. We got 17 to go, guys. Abdul Carter, the number one edge rusher by far in this class. The one that, let's be honest, I think is
number 2.
If you had to poll Giants fans of who you wanted to get in this draft, most of them would probably tell you Abdul Carter at this point. I feel like he's the big one. Many people have him as a top player overall in this entire NFL draft. There's still some cons to him, though. We'll go over some pros and some cons here. I'll tell you guys up front, I still don't know that the Giants are going to get him, both because I don't know if he's going to be available 3. Cleveland could easily take him, and that would not shock me. And I also am not still sold that we're not going to go get Shedeur Sanders. So don't get your hopes too much on him if you're an Abdul Carter fan. We just paid $30 million to Burns. We just drafted Kayvon Thibodeaux a couple years ago, still under team control for at least 1, if not 2 more years. I'm not so sure that this is going to happen, but there's a lot of people that think it's going to. When there's smoke, there's sometimes fire. Just no matter what size fire.
Sometimes there's mirrors.
Yes. So anyway, Abdul Carter out of Penn State, 6'3", 259 pounds, 21 years old, from Philadelphia, which just rule him out right there as being a New York Giant. That would be kind of like revenge on the Eagles. You took Barkley, we took
Yeah.
Abdul Carter. It seems a little bit fair. In 22, he's the second team All Big Ten. 23, first team All Big Ten. Now, here's the kicker. He wasn't an edge rusher then. He was an off-ball, middle linebacker, whatever the hell term you want to use for it, a traditional linebacker. He was those years. It was just this past year that they moved him to an edge rusher position. This year, 16 games, 68 tackles, 24 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, 4 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, and a 91.3 PFF grade. Unanimous All-American. Big Ten Player of the Year. First team All Big Ten. It's his first year ever playing edge, guys. This is the amazing part of what he did. He never played the position before. He literally plays it for 1 year and is automatically the best player at that position in all of college football.
Dominates.
That's impressive. You're going to hear me say some negative things. I want to make sure I'm as positive as I can before I get to that stuff about the truth of what kind of player he is. Because that's absolute dominance. Your first year at the position, you're automatically the best at it. That's awesome. Seriously, he deserves a lot of credit for that. It's a lot of work on his end. It's also boo to Penn State because he obviously should have been there all along. We've said forever, Penn State's that school that always has good players that just never quite seem to produce in college. This is production, don't get me wrong. But this is a guy that clearly should have been an edge rusher right off the bat. Clearly was in the wrong position. And he was a good linebacker, too, is the scary part. He wasn't a bad one. But he definitely is better as an edge rusher. So, great burst, quick to change direction. He's physical. He's aggressive. He's also good in coverage, which comes back from being an off-ball linebacker there for a while. He's also very raw, which is a pro and a con. Because you can sit there and say, scary as that sounds, he only had the 1 year. Did he really meet his peak of what you'd expect from a guy coming out of this draft? Again, he's also 21 years old, very young. There's a lot of rawness there. He needs time to develop how to use his hands specifically as a pass rusher. He needs to learn how to recognize blocks coming his way as well. I feel like that's an issue where I've seen him almost kind of walk into a guy who's going to block him, whereas a more experienced edge rusher would move away from that guy and know what's coming. That comes with time. Again, this is not me knocking him as he's not good at this. This is me saying he needs time to develop some of the stuff there. He is a little bit shorter than what I like for the ideal size. Again, 6'3". You probably want more 6'5", 6'6" around there to be an ideal size for an edge rusher. Here's one I kind of hate pulling into this, but I'm going to pull into it because I think it's especially as a Giants show and knowing that the Giants have there's a good chance he might be a Giant at the end of this whole thing. Thursday night, there's a 33.3333333% chance he's a Giant.
You're saying there's a chance.
Him, Shedeur Sanders, or Travis Hunter, probably. Barring any kind of trade, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love for it to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's definitely some character issues. You hear rumblings coming out of Penn State. You do hear that. Listen, you heard a lot of rumblings out of Micah Parsons when he was coming out of Penn State, too, as well. It's why there's a lot of comparisons between these two players. A lot of similarities. Because Micah Parsons, the difference with him was he was an off-ball linebacker that can convert it to edge in the NFL. But there was a character issue, same school, same number. So a lot of these comparisons come through. But there was an issue where, and listen, I'm not going to be very frank with you guys. I didn't look at police reports or that kind of stuff. I'm not going TMZ style in this whole scenario here. But there was an issue with a tow truck driver who went to tow away his vehicle when it was parked. He literally got into the altercation so much that he literally went ahead and pulled the tow truck driver from his vehicle and then blocked access to the vehicle. Now, you want to block access to the vehicle from a tow truck driver? First off, stupid. He's not going to do it unless he has legal abilities to go ahead and take this car. But
he's probably attacking.
we've all done stupid things. I'm not going to knock him on that. When you're physically removing him from your vehicle, there's an issue. That's a lack of judgment. That's a lack of being able to control your temper. That's a lack also of common sense. Now, like I said, there's rumblings, other issues that happened in Penn State as well. Nothing came out, so I don't want to sit there and say specifically rumors I've heard because I can't substantiate them and say they definitely happened. Wasn't like Micah Parsons when he came out. There's a whole hazing incident, if I'm right, or something like that.
So yeah,
but there's definitely rumors of him as far as his personality not exactly being the team-friendly one that you really want to have as a leader in your locker room. But he has so much skill, you'll overlook that. But it's got to be part of the equation you got to look into. You know what you're getting.
Did he block the tow truck driver from getting his car? Is the real question.
I didn't hear how the whole thing ended up. My whole thing is not even the blocking. My whole thing is you're yanking this man out of your vehicle. Like you're putting your hands on somebody. That clearly, let's be honest, the tow truck driver wasn't just sitting there. He was sitting there with his tow truck and everything. Like who it is. No one's breaking into your vehicle. This is a tow truck driver who feels like he has the legal abilities to take away your vehicle. Regardless if it's repossession, illegal parking, whatever the case may be. And I didn't read the full report on that. There's no point of that. That part I could not care less. What I do care about is the poor decision-making on that, though. The other issue with him is the one that, let's be honest, I've harped on the show nonstop about. The injuries. Because you look at the injury issues, the big one is he had a stress reaction in his foot that got found, right before the combine there. Yeah. So foot injuries scare the hell out of me because it's just one of those things that I feel like I've seen too many players just battle it their whole careers. Now, is that a guarantee that's going to happen? No, of course not. He's also 21 years old. That tends to help with healing. Supposedly it's all healed up now. He had the shoulder injury he also had in the final game at Penn State, the bowl game. Again, that was also lingering out where he wasn't able to even go ahead and perform in the combine. So I have injury concerns. I have character concerns. And if it wasn't for those two things, I'd be 100% behind this as this is the guy to go get.
Yeah, the shoulder probably bothers me more than the foot because the foot sounds like it's more like a stress thing from overworked. When you're trying to recover from a shoulder injury to make sure that you're the guy at the draft, you're probably putting a lot of extra work in, and it sounds like a stress fracture from like we talked about before. So that's something that sounds like it's going to heal fast. But the shoulder injury, that's something also that doesn't tend to heal up pretty fast. So
yeah, I feel like you really got to dive into the medicals with this kid. You really got to dive into the medicals and know that, okay, do I see anything else coming down the pipeline or any concerns I have based on how he plays or whatever the case may be? Because that's two injuries as literally the most important time of your collegiate career, at least your amateur career, right before you get drafted in the NFL. Is it poor timing or is it a foreshadowing of things to come?
Yeah.
That's again, we don't have access to medicals. I'm not going to say either way, but a foot injury, like I said, the shoulder one scares you. The foot injury scares the crap out of me. Because I've been seeing too many players over the years battle foot injuries that are nagging nonstop. So he's going to be, listen, let's be honest, he's going to be a top 5 pick. He's going to be probably a top 3 pick. Probably he's definitely not making it past 4. Like, let's say, for example, if he's there at pick 3 for us and we take Shedeur, he's not making it past the Patriots. And when you talk about, as Hirsch says here, you don't pass up generational talent. This is a guy that some people do believe he's a generational talent. I'm not going to ever say many people in the draft are a generational talent. I have to be so sure of a player, it's not even funny to call him that. There's not a single player in this draft I'm sure of, to be very frank with you guys.
Yeah.
But as far as just physical talent, this is the guy I'm probably most sure on. The injuries is what scares me. The personality concerns, I wouldn't say they scare me, but it's a little bit of a red flag. But
they do. But I mean, you're also a hothead. You're young. Yeah, you're in college.
Listen, I was a young hothead. I'm a middle-aged hothead now. I feel like there are situations where you kind of feel like you get a vibe of who someone is. And when you're heated, there's people that make mistakes, but there's also people that show you their true colors. And again, I don't know him personally. I know Jay likes to say I like the name drop here. I'm not saying I know Abdul Carter. I'm not sitting here saying I know what kind of person he is. This is something you have to really be tricky in an interview with to try to find these things out. You have to try to back someone into a corner and find out their personality. And this is why I wish they'd have, I don't want to say me and you, but just, open conversations in general that were open to the public where we can kind of see some of this stuff, because a lot of things are micro expressions and stuff like that you can see and you kind of know what you got. I'm not sure what we got in him. But again, when I see assault charge, that's kind of, again, that's a flag. I see 2 injuries. It's a flag. So I'm not saying you give up on the kid. I'm not saying you don't draft the kid. I'm just saying you have to really do your research into what kind of person he is and really do your research on these medical stuff. And it's a generational talent, physicality-wise, that kind of stuff like that. Okay. And the only reason I hesitate to say overall generational talent is the injuries. Let's be honest on that, because if the injuries nag, he's not going to be the guy you think he's going to be. If he's healthy, he's a generational talent. I'll put it that way. Is that fair?
That's fair.
So just got to do the research. That's all you got to do and take it from there. So, all right. Anyway, top 5 pick. Next up. One of the more controversial edge rushers as far as the top guys here. James Pearce Jr. out of Tennessee. And we say sometimes you get some guys that are love-hate. This is a love-hate guy. There are people that love this kid, think he's going to be a great player. There are people that hate this kid and think he's overrated as all hell and won't do anything. And it's weird because it literally goes to that kind of extreme. 6'5", 243 pounds, 21 years old, from Charlotte, North Carolina. This past season, 13 games, 38 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 1 pass deflected, 1 fumble recovery, 1 forced fumble, and an 87.1 PFF grade. First team All SEC 23 and 24. You know my thoughts on excelling in the Big Ten or the SEC. Those are the 2 spots that it's like, if you can excel there, you can excel anywhere. It's up to you. SEC and Big Ten. I'm just saying, like, it's like if you want to look at the college system as a minor league, which is what it basically is, I feel like there's certain conferences within college that are like AAA. So when you're like the best of what is potentially the toughest conference in all of football, college football, then yeah, you've done something there. He's got good height. He's got long arms. He's athletic. He put on an absolute show at the combine. And this is why some people love him, is because they think that he is still untapped to a certain degree because of what they see, what he can do in the quote-unquote underwear Olympics. Great burst off the line. He's agile. He's able to change his direction really quickly. He does need to add strength. He's also not great at recognizing blocks. He needs to work on his hand game. He's been able to, because he's so athletic, he's been able to get away with being more athletic than the guy in front of him and not needing to get a huge, array of pass rushing moves. You're not going to win that way as often in the NFL. He's going to have to develop some of that.
Correct. Because listen, a lot of the guys, in college, you might be able to get away with the athleticism, but everyone in the NFL is athletic. Like, you don't get to the top tier in football without being athletic and talented.
Yes. Now, another weird thing, and it's weird because I say weird because he's I said athletic, he's agile. We've said all this stuff. He has had a little bit of trouble wrapping up and finishing the sack on athletic quarterbacks, which is something you don't really typically see with those kind of guys. Agile, quick. That's what you expect to be the best thing to combat that. So I don't know if that's just a coincidental. He's made a couple mistakes, and that's what you get sometimes. And sometimes it's coincidence. Sometimes it's a pattern. The weirdest thing with him, and I think why a lot of people don't like him, is the way Tennessee plays. So Tennessee does a huge rotation in their line. And you look at what's going on there, and you go, okay, yeah, he looks really great some snaps, but is that because he's fresh than the guy in front of him because they're not rotating offensive linemen like they are defensive linemen in Tennessee? And that's part of where you get it at. What I just look at personally is I see production at the SEC level, and I see a guy who every step of the way that you've gone to see him, film, combine, all this stuff, you see how athletic and gifted he is. So to me, he's a first round pick all day long. There's not a doubt in my mind this kid should be a first round pick. Now, what I do have some doubts on is how high the ceiling is going to be. I don't think he'll ever be a all pro level edge rusher. Can he be a borderline Pro Bowl one? I think that's probably where his ceiling is more. I think he's got a decent floor though, because again, he's gone against really good players week in, week out in the SEC. He's well battle tested for that kind of stuff and exceeded the last couple of years very well there. So I don't think his floor is that low. I don't think he'd be a bust by any stretch of the imagination. I think worst case scenario, he's your third edge rusher on the team. Best case scenario, he's a borderline Pro Bowler.
Maybe, which I mean, makes think where you want to take him, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You have to know this into it, because if he's going to be rotated like he was in Tennessee, then you're not seeing enough of him to sit there and say he's your absolute starter, your stud, your star of the defense. Like, he won't be able to have that role. You can't do that when you're being subbed out and missing a third of your snaps. So, like I said, I think that I do think that he's going to have a good spot in this league. It's just a matter of how high that potential can be reached, because that's what you're drafting him based on his potential. And there's a lot of guys we're going to talk about here with potential that you're drafting based on potential. And that's something I despise doing in the first round.
Yeah.
I'd rather trade down and get a couple guys with potential and get a better chance of hitting on one.
You better know.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know?
Your ass better call someone.
I can't help every time I hear it. All right, let's get another guy with some potential here. And that's Michael Williams out of Georgia, who is one of those guys, again, that you look at, and on paper, he should play better than he does. And for some reason, you just don't see it yet. Now, he is very young. He's just 20 years old, so that's part of it there. 6'5", 265 pounds, from Warm Springs, Georgia. This past season.
Sounds nice.
Doesn't it sound nice? Sounds like one of those places you try to get like people from New York to move down to. Are you tired of the cold weather, expensive high taxes? Have you tried Warm Springs, Georgia?
Where the weather is always pleasant.
Here's Eric Estrada here to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, this past year, 12 games, 21 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 2 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, and a 78.4 PFF grade. Here's a guy that, point blank, look at this. I said 21 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 21 tackles, 5 sacks. It's not a ton of production. It's a lot of high quality production. And that's why I look at him and say, you know what? This is a guy that you probably can develop, but he's going to take patience. That's what I feel like. He's going to take patience. And I kind of compare him to Trayvon Walker with the Jaguars a couple of years ago when he was the first overall pick. He was picked, which, first off, when you pick somebody first overall in the draft based on potential, that's supposed to be your safest bet in the entire draft.
Yeah.
They went big. And he's another guy who was on Georgia's football team. And people drafted him and loved him based on his measurables, based on his combine performance, based on some of the physical things he could do that, quite frankly, guys that had more on their tape in college couldn't do. But again, I'm seeing something from this kid when he's on the field. So I like him. But there's a risk because, again, you're going based on potential. I would think he should be like a late first-round pick. He's strong. He's got great size. He also takes snaps from the inside, by the way, guys, which I thought was kind of interesting. So if you want to run a kind of, especially on a third down, and put a guy like him towards the inside and be an inside pass rusher, you can do that. He's athletic. He's undeveloped as a pass rusher. Doesn't have a lot of moves. Needs time to learn to use his hands better. And like I said, refine those pass rush moves overall. But again, late first round pick, I think he's going to be. I think he's the guy that's going to take a year or two to really develop before you really know what you got. Some of that is the age too, but he's a guy that, quite frankly, probably, I almost hate saying it because we're talking about a guy who's going to be still probably a late first round pick. I think this is a kid that really could have benefited from being one more year in Georgia. Like one more year, he could have been a top 10 pick. He didn't want to play there anymore. He wanted out. He gets out. But
I think a lot of kids these days too, especially since you can make money in college.
You're not making this money. That's the thing. You're not making this money. There's
No.
not a lot of guys making more than $1 million a year. And this is a guy that when he gets drafted, he's got that first round check.
Yeah. Well, as I'm saying, like there's between like been picked 30 and been picked 8.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be 8 or 30. I think it'd be probably in the 20s somewhere at that point.
I'm just saying if you wait until next year and moves up in the draft.
Oh yeah, but he also could have got hurt. He also could have had a worse year. There's guys you hear about every year that maybe they should have went last year. They had better numbers, that kind of thing. It happens all the time. But I think, like I said, I think it'll be a late first round pick. Where I think it'll be.
Probably.
All right. Next up, this is my award winner here. Okay. My award for biggest bust potential in the NFL draft here. I'm calling it right now. Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. Now, when I say that, I want to be very clear about what I'm saying. So I don't want to be disrespectful to Shamar there. He's not going to be as good as he's drafted. This kid will make it in the NFL. I don't think he'll make it nearly to what people are going to draft him for. And that's on him. I'm sorry, that's on them much more than it's on him. It's kind of like we talk about Kayvon. We go, well, is Kayvon a good pick? Well, he's a legit NFL player, but is this the outcome you want from 5th overall pick? It's kind of like it's going to be that kind of argument with him in a couple of years. 6'6", 290 pounds, 21 years old from Miami. This past year, 12 games, 31 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, guys. 2 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, and a 79.5 PFF grade. He's got great size and length. He's got good strength. He moves his lower body well. He got good change of direction. On paper, when you look at specific highlights, you look at what he can do. On paper, this kid is absolutely amazing. When you actually watch the whole game, though, and you see what he does on film, it's disappointing. He's that guy who has all the tools in the world and just can't seem to put it together. Now, you can sit there and say it's coaching, but he's got guys on the same team that are doing better than him and performing better than him that, quite frankly, aren't as naturally talented as he is.
Yeah. He seems like he just, he puts it all in for a certain amount of snaps, and sometimes it's like he's that kid in the little league that's looking at the butterflies in the outfield.
It's basically what he is. Now, I said 1.5 sacks a year. And again, we've talked about this show plenty of times. Sacks are not everything. I will not measure win or lose based on sacks for an edge rusher. That being said, he's had 4.5 sacks in 3 years. That's really bad, guys. It's literally 1.5 sack a year for 3 years straight.
Yeah,
he's got the hurries and pressures. Those are there. It's not like he's not getting freed up, but he's not able to seal the deal. I have concerns when a guy can't seal the deal in college. And I'm supposed to use a first overall pick on him because someone's got to fall in love with the measurables and the athleticism. And they're going to take him they're going to take him with their first pick in the first round. I'm telling you right now, someone is going to fall in love with this kid and do that. This is a kid that he's going to be a steady player. He's going to be a guy that's going to be like your number 2 pass rusher, maybe a guy that, again, is the guy that does dirty work, that kind of player. I don't think he'll ever be a star. And I just have a huge issues drafting somebody in the first round that I go into it saying he'll never be a star.
Yeah.
That's when you're supposed to get your stars, is the first round. Granted, it doesn't always work out that way. There's guys you pick later on, and that's great. That's supposed to be gravy if that happens. The meat and potatoes of this whole thing is your first round pick. That's supposed to be your stud picks, your guys you build your whole team around. I don't think he's good enough to build a team around. I think he's good enough to be a potential star in this league. Not a star. Starter, not star.
Yeah, and there's a clear difference of what you're getting.
Huge. He's also got bad use of his hands, which again got to be worked on. He's stiff at times as well. He also loses gaps in the run game as well, which is an issue. So he's providing you like no sacks whatsoever and goes out of position in the run game. I don't care how well you did at the combine. I'm looking at what you did on film. It's an issue. And every year there's a guy that somebody falls in love with the potential, the immeasurable things, the athleticism, the bend.
Yeah, sometimes the immeasurables just don't measure up.
Yeah, it's like it's not worth it when you're not seeing it on the field. Point blank. It's like, remember we had John Ross a couple years ago and people were like, oh, he's the fastest guy ever in the draft. Well, yeah, but he also was a crappy wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to be mean about it, even I'm just trying to be blunt, so people understand what I mean by this. It's not just how fast you are. It's not a track team. It's not just how strong you are. It's not a bench pressing team. This is about how you are on the football field. And when I watch Stewart play, it leaves something to be desired, where I think he's got the talent based on what he's done in the field of a 3rd round pick. And he's going to get picked probably in the 1st round because of what people think they can develop him into. And that's a scary proposition where you're putting a guy into a position that, quite frankly, he's not built for. And have a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, sadly, that pressure also sometimes cracks a player as well. So
yes, it does, and crack is whack.
Ooh. SLT.
Let's talk about his teammate. And I think you guys have a little idea of what I'm talking about here. Nick Scorton, also, again, Texas A&M. Played there just this past season. Prior to that, he played 2 years over at Purdue. 6'4", 285 pounds, 20 years old, from Timpston, Texas. He was second team All Big Ten in 23. This past season, 37 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 2 passes deflected, an 80.1 PFF grade, and first team All SEC. Again, same exact team as Shamar Stewart we talked about a moment ago. And again, I'm not sitting there saying that stats are everything here. They're not. But look at the difference in stats, guys. It should at least draw a red flag in you. 14 tackles for loss compared to 6. 5 sacks compared to 1.5. These are issues. I think Scorton is the better overall player for this draft than Stewart is. And he's going to get drafted after him. I'm telling you right now. He's going to be an end of the 1st round, beginning of the 2nd round kind of guy. And look at the size of him. If you need a big old, 3-4 end / edge, like a guy who can go play back and forth like that, this is your guy. 6'4", 285 pounds, guys. He's got that big weight. And what's interesting about him is when he played at Purdue, he was strictly a pass rusher. Like, he played like we used to say with Azeez Ojulari, like, pin your ears back and go for it. Like, that's what he did at Purdue. And they developed him into a true pass rusher, a true edge player at Texas A&M. He gets off blocks well. He's a good tackler. He's got a great spin move. He does need to add gap discipline. That's an issue where he can pop at a gap, especially in the run game there. He's got a slow burst off the line. Needs time to work on his technique. He does have below average bend. I hate when people say that the bend is. If the bend is all, the bend is all. You don't have the bend, you have nothing. Like people act like that all the time. If you don't have the bend,
like Gumby.
You don't have the bend, guys. What it just means is that you're not as flexible. You're not as superhuman athletic abilities as some people want. To me, I don't care how you get to the quarterback to get to the goddamn quarterback. I don't care how you stop the running back in the backfield to stop the goddamn running back. I don't care how you do it. You want to do a speed strength combo? I don't care. Just get it done. I'm that simple. This guy gets it done. Again, I think he's going to be late first, early second kind of pick. And I'm telling you right now, I feel bad because I feel like we're using Scorton's scouting report mostly to like drive home the whole Shamar Stewart being overrated in this draft point. But it's the truth. I'm telling you right now, Scorton will be a better player in the NFL than his teammate Shamar Stewart. Just telling you that point blank. And he's going to be a guy that I think ceiling is like a high-end second pass rusher or a low-end number one. I think that's probably where his ceiling's at. I don't think he'll ever, again, there's not other guys who I'd sit there and say are stars in this draft overall. There's just a ton of quality edge rushers, and he's one of them.
Yeah, and you're definitely going to get a better value as well because
huge,
better.
Yeah, if you like, if you really like, Shamar Stewart and you want him, just trade down and get Scorton. Get another pick or so. Get the better player on the same team. You'll be better suited. Next up, Jack Sawyer, not to be confused with Tom Sawyer, out of Ohio State. Ohio State there. Not sure if he's ever traveled down the Mississippi or not. 6'5", 260 pounds, 21 years old, does turn 22 next month here, so he'll be 22 for the season. Out of Columbus, Ohio, which is interesting. So from Columbus, Ohio, plays Columbus, Ohio, college-wise and everything. That's kind of sad and kind of cool at the same time. This past year, 59 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 1 interception, 7 passes deflected, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 of them returned for touchdowns, by the way. 3 forced fumbles as well, a 90.5 PFF score. Second team All Big Ten the last 2 years there. He's a great run defender. He's a high motor. He's got a great football IQ. He's got active hands. He doesn't have elite athleticism. That's one of the issues. Needs to develop more pass rusher moves overall. I think this is the high floor, low ceiling kind of guy. Like this guy will definitely be a legit part of your pass rush team. He'll never be a star.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear me say that a lot of guys tonight, guys, because that's what it is. If you want to build up a pass rush team, you can't go ahead and get 10 Batmans. You try to get a Batman, and then you want a Robin and a backer and all that kind of stuff. Nightwing.
The Bat family, if you will.
Yeah, a Bat family. Like, this is the guy that can easily fit into a Bat family, as Rob likes to call it, apparently. But he's not going to be Batman himself. And there's nothing wrong with it, especially a kid like this, a high motor, high IQ, hardworking kid. I love having those kind of kids in the team. And you know what I think also? I think he's a guy that if you really wanted to use him in this way, I think he could also provide something on special teams as well. That high motor, great football IQ, that's the kind of stuff you want in guys who excel at special teams. So I think you bring him in here. He's going to be probably a second-round pick, and he's going to do one of two things. He'll either develop into a starting edge for you, or worst case, he'll be your third edge, and he'll provide something on special teams. But he's a safe pick. If you want to go safe, you just need a quality edge rusher. This is your safe pick. So
that's your safety.
Exactly. Now let's go to the guy who's not a safe pick. Mike Green. Which is ironic because he plays at school where everything is green. Marshall University, the last 2 years. Before that, started off his college career over in Virginia. 6'4", 248 pounds, 21 years old, from Newport News, Virginia, which is right outside of that Virginia Beach area there by Portsmouth and all. This past year, 13 games, 84 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 17 sacks, 2 passes deflected, 1 fumble recovered, 3 forced, a 92.4 PFF grade. Now, Rob could attest that this is something I say all the time. People who've watched this show for the years that we've been doing it will also attest this probably as well. I always say this about small school kids. I don't care if you come from a small school. We have a little bit more learning curve potentially in the beginning when you first get to the NFL, sure. Here's what I care about. Did you dominate that small school? I would say 23 tackles for loss and 17 sacks, a 92.4 PFF grade. That's a nice dominance.
Yeah, you did some damage there.
Yeah, like you were probably the best player in the field whenever you went on any field, basically a lot of times. That's okay. I have no problem with that. I just want to see that level of dominance. Talk to a couple of the guards that were, coming from Sacramento State and Jacksonville State, and the guys just point blank weren't that dominant. They were good. They weren't great. That scares me when I see that at a small school, because if you're good at a small school, it means you'd be less than good at a big school, which means you'll probably be bad in pro.
Yeah.
The transition's there. There's sound logic in this, guys. It's not rocket science. People overthink these things.
Listen, if you're building, a doghouse with a nail gun, you better be, beating it up and doing it fast compared to a hammer.
I'm not quite sure the analogy works, but okay.
I don't know, but you better be doing it fast. At the end of the day, I don't know. At the end of the day, you better be nailing.
I'm saying this way: if he was at 92.4 PFF, I'm just using the PFF for a second because it's an easy number to talk about here. At Marshall, that means what he had been like an 88 to 85 at SEC Big Ten kind of school.
That's
you can sit there and say I could still see him being very good and a good player you want to draft if he was at one of those big schools facing tougher competition. So I'm okay with all this. First team All-American, Sun Belt Player of the Year. He also went to the Senior Bowl, which is one thing I like to see with these small school kids too as well, and played very good. And some people even call them dominant. This is something I like seeing. Remember Quinyon Mitchell last year at Toledo dominated at the Senior Bowl, and that's what kind of popped him up on the map there to put him in as a first-round pick. I'm not so sure Mike Green's a first-round pick. He's a borderline first-round pick, and I think somebody might fall in love with things that he does or might need an edge rusher and might go ahead and take him that early. But at the least, he's a second-round pick, which coming out of Marshall, that's an accomplishment. You think about the guys who came out of Marshall that were top-end guys, the Chad Penningtons, the Randy Mosses, it's not often you get a guy to that level of a first, second-round kind of guy out of that school. Got great pass rush moves, got good balance, high motor, good strength for his size as well, because, again, 248 pounds. He's not the biggest edge guy out there. But he plays like a guy's more 260 the way he is. Then you look at some of the bad stuff there. He's got a little bit of trouble with the bigger blockers. Again, he's a little smaller, so that kind of makes sense. He has a tendency to arm tackle at times there. But the biggest question still is, you got to look again at where he's coming from. And can he go up from, a Sun Belt school at Marshall and go into a place in the NFL and succeed like that, where you could say, yeah, he was worth a first or second round pick? I actually think he can. And I'm not always big on the small school guys. I think this is one of those guys that you can sit there and say, yeah, you know what? Somebody dropped the ball and should have recruited this guy to one of the bigger schools. And when I mean somebody, I mean several people.
A lot of people.
I just feel like this is a guy that he's got that potential. But you got to go almost put him automatically because of where he comes from, a smaller school, in that boom or bust category. He's going to be probably a decent player in the NFL, but because he's coming from that smaller of a school,
he's got to prove himself. So
gonna have to, and there's that potential that he can't hack it with the higher levels. So we'll have to see what happens there with him. But I'm intrigued by him. I'm definitely intrigued by him. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, Next up is we're gonna let Rob take this one. Everybody knows when I say it, it's a fun name because
Oh yeah.
I even spelled it phonetically. Princely Uman Mi Ellen. Whew. That's and listen, the two of us, I'm usually the one that is the harder names always because I tend to get them a little closer. But even I'm not so sure I pronounced that one correctly. Out of Ole Miss, played at Florida also from 20 to 23, so just a 1 year over at Ole Miss. 6'4", 255 pounds, 23 years old. Originally from Nigeria, went to high school over in Manor, Texas. Second team All SEC in 23. In 24, 12 games, 37 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, one fumble recovered, which was for a touchdown, a forced fumble, and a 91.1 PFF grade. First team All SEC. This is a really intriguing kid. You know,
Very.
Because you got good bend. He's flexible. He's agile. He's athletic. He's a good tackler. He sets the edge against the run. Here's the issue with him. First off, is he's not very good with his hands. He's that guy that wins with athleticism and has gotten away with it. He's going to have to develop that in the NFL. That's fine. You hear that quite often. The biggest issue with him is I feel like he plays soft. Like you're a power move, a power position in this league when you come into the NFL as an edge rusher. There's certain things you have to be that strong, big guy. 255 pounds. Could you say he's a little undersized? Yeah, a little bit undersized. But we talked about a few people that are 240s. And you notice I didn't say they play soft. There's a difference in mentality. He's not that guy that you sit there and go, this guy plays aggressive. This guy plays with a chip on his shoulder. He needs to develop that chip. And I feel like this is the kid that if you could ever get him with the right coach, that's going to get the best out of him. You're going to get a hell of a player. If you don't, and you can't keep this kid engaged and interested in everything going on, keep him trying to play angry and try to figure out a way to get that anger on that football field to him, then he's never going to develop fully. I just feel like that's where he's at.
Yeah, he needs some more spunk, if you will.
Yeah. Like there's risk with this kid, but there's a potential for a good reward as well. I think he's going to be a third-round pick. I think third round, by the way, guys, is where I think you're going to see a ton of edge rushers. Like half the round is going to be like edge rushers, pretty much. If not, some are going to fall to day 3 and they're going to get a really good value. Because we're getting a lot of guys here in that range that are just really, good potential players there. And this is definitely one of them. Princely's going to be a kid. I'm telling you right now. You put him with the right coach, you got a player to get a really chance to get a really special player at round 3. And if you don't, you're going to get him as a backup pass rush situation kind of guy. You bring him in specifically on passing downs. That's it. But yeah, I think, like I said, decent player, comes with a risk, could be a steal in round 3.
He probably starts off the run, if you will, in that third round.
I think he's going to be one of the better ones there. But here's the problem you run into with this. And this is the problem with edge you run into in general. Edge is one of those things, actually the pass rusher in general, is, a position where it's, what do you think of this player and how does he fit your system? Are you running a 4-3? Are you running a 3-4? Do you need a bigger guy? Do you need more of a finesse guy? Like, what is your defense calling for? And that determines a lot of times which one of these guys they go with too. So it's not even which one you think is the best overall talent at that position. It's who merges the talent and your positional need. And that's why the only reason I'll say I don't know if he's the first one off that board in that run. But I do think he's a guy that has the chance to be that first guy off that board in that run. So could be him. could also be. Landon Jackson out of Arkansas, not to be confused with Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Played the last 3 years there in Arkansas. Prior to that, played 1 year also at LSU. 6'7". It's a basketball size. I hate to say it because I'm 6'7", so I feel weird saying that, but I got to recognize that's very tall for an edge rusher. 280 pounds, 22 years old, from Texarkana, Texas. That's Texas as they come, that town.
Yeah.
23, first team all SEC. 24, 12 games, 49 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 3 passes deflected, a fumble recovery, a forced fumble, and an 83.0 PFF grade. Second team all SEC this year. Kids, again, great height and great length. Obviously comes with that height there. He's got a high motor. He gets off block swells. Here's the issues, though. He doesn't really bend very well. You want that guy who's the bendy, flexible kind of edge rusher. That's definitely not him. He's stiff as all hell, basically, when he plays. He's that strength and guy that wins based on strength and also leverage because of those long arms. He does have some balance issues. He does misread run plays at times. And he also, weirdly enough, has a tendency to go off sides. Like a very high rate of offsides compared to what you really expect from a polished college player, which, again, 22 years old, you spent some time in this league now. You're 4 years into college. You kind of don't expect those kind of issues, but you definitely saw them. Like I said, another round 3 guy, I think. Another guy with potential. I think a lot of these guys are going to be the round 3 guys. You put him in as your third pass rusher, and you see if they develop into a starter. And that's what he is.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So, all righty. We're going to go ahead and pay the bills real quick, guys. Then we're going to break down the rest of these players here for you guys. Keep the comments coming. I do see comments. We're going to go through comments at the end of this year. If you have comments on specific players, keep in mind. Oh, excuse me there. Thank God for that mute button. That sneeze was fighting for a while there. Keep in mind that as we talk about players there, if you got a player in mind, if you came on late, you might have missed them. Because I do see some mention of players we've already gone over. So also some we will be going over. So, keep an eye out there. And like I said, we're going to go through all the comments at the end here. So let's go ahead and pay those bills here real quick.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All righty, guys. And of course, you can also go ahead and sponsor the show there. Support the show, I should say, by doing show notes on YouTube, by doing also, of course, stars over on Facebook. And of course, we also have our store as well. So, feel free to go ahead and support us whichever way you're comfortable, guys. Again, we're just happy if you guys watch the show, to be honest with you. We have very low expectations of people. Maybe we need a higher expectation a little. We're just glad you're here. But that's,
appreciate you guys showing up.
But honestly, it's the truth of where we're at there. We know there's a lot of people out there that do what we do. We don't front, we don't hide from that. So we appreciate the fact that you've chosen to watch us. At the very least, if you hit the like, subscribe, share, tell a friend about us, that'd be great. I did put it in the show notes here. So if you're on YouTube or Twitch, since there's only ones that seem to want to share comments anymore, you can go ahead and also see the link to the show there as well if you want some cups, mugs, shirts, hats, all kinds of fun stuff. Rob and I actually both need to still go shopping since we just started that up recently. So you might see some stuff with us there soon. All right, let's get back to the rest of these players here. Next up, we have a guy who wins the award for shortest first name and longest last name there in this draft.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, JT Tuimoloau. Again, one of the more tougher names to say this draft. I feel like they're messing with us with this group. There's a lot of them coming still. 6'5", 269 pounds from Ohio State, 21 years old, turns 22 there in May. In 2020, he was named the Polynesian High School Player of the Year. This past season, 16 games, 61 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 12.5 sacks, 3 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, and an 86.2 PFF grade. 3-time All Big Ten first team. 3 times. This is the guy, though, that people are afraid he's getting away with stuff basically in college that he would not get away with in the pros. We talked about it before. This guys that sometimes it's just high motor, smart players that just give it their all. This is that guy. He fills gaps well in the run game. He's a good tackler. He's got good arm length, but he needs also to get more pass rushing moves. He lacks that twitch, that kind of athletic, freaky, change of direction and everything that you kind of want to have as a pass rusher. That might have to do counters and things of that nature there. So he's got some potential limitations, but guys, he's going to be probably a 3rd round pick, and I feel like he might be the best of the bunch of the 3rd round picks just because of the fact that he has such a high floor. This is a legitimate guy you're going to have in your pass rush room for years to come if you get him. He'll probably never be a high-end starter, and that's why he's going to be around 3. But if you're telling me that you can't find a way on your roster to find the room for a guy that was a 3-time All Big Ten,
yeah, you'd be lying.
and a guy, again, all accounts, a leader, hard worker, great guy to have in the locker room. This is that guy. And I feel like he's going to be a round 3 pick. And maybe he's not as athletic as some of the guys we're going to talk about today. I shouldn't say maybe. He's not as athletic as some of the guys we're talking about today. Well, no, he's not as athletic as guys we're still going to talk about that we haven't talked about yet. But he's got that leadership ability. He's got that heart. He's got that football IQ. He's got things you cannot teach. Because of that, like I said, I think he's going to have a role, and I think he's actually going to have a decent long career in this league. I just don't think he'll ever be a star. I don't think he'll ever necessarily be a starter even. Probably like a 3rd edge, like your top backup edge, and probably have a very long career doing that.
Maybe, but when you're talking about, first team All Big Ten, like that's there's a position out there, and it's should fill in the NFL pretty well.
Yeah, but I mean that's the problem though. Is you look at it's scrappiness. Can the scrappy guy succeed by being just scrappy in the NFL like that? Probably not.
Yeah, But usually the scrappy guys are willing to learn. So
that's you definitely have that. That's what I'm saying. I think he's going to be that guy that front offices and coaches love having around. He's going to be that guy who's going to be on one team for like 12 years straight.
Probably. It's going to be like a Niner. They love their.
I really do think that. All righty. Next up, Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. Played the last couple of years there after starting for a couple of years over at Coastal Carolina to start his college career. I like the kind of trajectory this kid had. So he goes 2 years in Coastal Carolina. Plays really well. Okay. So he's first year there, freshman All-American, first team All-Sun Belt. Second year there, second team All-Sun Belt. Sun Belt's obviously a smaller conference. He says, you know what, let me get to a better area as far as competition-wise, where I have a little more focus on me, get a little more out there, help my draft status, that kind of stuff. Goes to Michigan. He's a backup the first year. Obviously, last year they had a stacked team, national champions, enough said there. Starts for him this year. And that's a pretty good year. And now he's in that conversation as like a day 2 draft pick guy again. 6'1", 245 pounds. So, definitely on the smaller side there. This year he was 11 games, 33 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, second team All Big Ten. He's fast. He's got a high motor, great burst. The biggest issues with him is the 6'1", 245. He's definitely a little smaller. And it's not just a 245. Is 245 a little smaller? Yes. I'd love to see him get 10, 15 pounds added on. What I can't do is suggest that somebody who's, getting out of college to go ahead and all of a sudden miraculously gain 4 inches of height.
They have surgery for that these days, don't they?
Can you play on stilts, sir?
Yeah.
But it's like that's the issue you have to overcome. And it's not easy to overcome that when you're playing edge, because arm reach, that kind of stuff, it helps everything as far as the punch, your pass rush moves, all that stuff. And I feel like you're going to get into a scenario here where you have a guy who's going to be a very good situational pass rusher. And I feel like that's probably where he's going to end up being. Like his ceiling is probably going to be really good situational pass rusher in this league, with the floor being a guy who's out of the league a couple of years because he just can't do it. Unfortunately, and it's sad to say, you can have all the mental talents in the world, and if you don't have the right size, you're still screwed.
Yeah, I mean,
keep in mind he was playing with 2 of the 3 best defensive tackles in all of college football, taking on a lot of the big guys, taking on blocks for him to help keep him freed up. He's not going to have that in the NFL. Chances are he's not going to have it. You don't get that kind of duo very often.
Typically not.
So, like I said, it's where I got him at. And like I said, I respect what he did by going off to Michigan and going to the next level like that. I still think he's got potential as a situational pass, rusher. I just don't think he'll ever be a legit starter in this league. Just my gut feeling. So
depends. Yeah, you're probably right. You probably see him being I wouldn't be surprised if he falls to the day 3 just because of his size, but he's probably a 3rd rounder.
It's possible. He said there's a lot of guys 3rd round kind of grade. Some of them may drop to 4th. You never know. And if I tell you right now, if he drops to the 4th, I would take him in a heartbeat. I think it'd be a damn good value. So, all right. Let's get to one of the most polarizing, intriguing / confusing players in the entire draft. Because you look at him on paper and you go, whoa, this guy should be a 1st round pick. But you notice we haven't talked about him until now. Donovan Izorocho. Actually, I'm probably another guy. Izoroku. I'm going to mispronounce every name tonight. I swear. It's going to be that night. Every single one of them. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, Donovan from Boston College, 6'2", 247 pounds, 21 years old, does turn 22 at the end of this month here. Born in Philadelphia, but grew up in Williamstown, New Jersey here. So another Jersey guy. He knows how to pump his own gas.
Yeah. Jersey.
This past season, 12 games, 80 tackles, 21 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks, a pass deflected, 3 forced fumbles. 91.2 PFF grade. That's pretty damn good. Active hands, great technique, good arm length for his height. He's agile. He's probably going to have to add strength, though. This is a guy that I don't want to say he plays a week. We said that before another player. I'm not going to say he plays weak. He plays weaker than his opponent at times. Is probably the best way to word it. He's not the strongest guy. And for a guy who's 247 on the smaller end, a lot of the guys we're talking about here today, he's not just the smaller end. He's the weak. I can't say weaker. I feel like it's a negative thing, like a personal level. Like he's not weak person. He's not as strong as you'd like, though. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he plays timid. He's not that kind of guy, but he's definitely a guy who can hit up the gym a little more, Yeah. But I don't want to sit there and say he's not hitting the gym already as it is, because he works so hard at his craft that he probably is a gym rat. Some guys just can't have trouble putting on that kind of strength, and that's why he's down where he's at. And I think he could potentially sneak into the 2nd round because of the production he had at Boston College, but he's probably best as a 3rd round. Because I look at him and you go, okay, active hands, great technique, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's some of the issues that you have with people coming out of this draft. You got to teach them a little technique. You got to teach them some pass rush moves and all that kind of stuff. He has all these tools already. So you sit there and you go, okay, he has trouble with bigger guys. He's going to go into a league now. He's going to have to deal with bigger guys on a consistent basis. He's already kind of maxed out technique-wise. Is there room for growth here, really? And that's the problem you're into. Can he continue just off technique and speed alone to succeed? That's a gamble.
It is, because you're only going to be so fast for so long.
Yeah. Now, on top of that, he's not a great run defender. He has trouble shedding blocks, things that you expect to have. And that's why I got him down this like second, third round is where I think he's going to go. But I think he's probably better with these third round guys because I think he's going to be one hell of a situational pass rusher. And you're going to try to develop him and see if you can build up the strength in him and get him with the right strength and conditioning coach to get him to a point where you can go, you know what? He's not a liability in the run game. This is a guy who can get off blocks now. He's got that ability. And if you get that, again, by everything else he does, it tells me this kid works hard. You don't gain technique that some pros don't even have point blank when you're at college by not working hard.
No.
So he's worth the risk, but you got to know he's a risk. And you got to know that if you can't add the strength at that point there, that he's best going to be a situational pass rusher in this league.
Yeah, I mean, hard work takes you a long way, but sometimes if you're finding up a weight class, which is what he's doing, it'll only take you so far.
Only take you so far, exactly. Next up, Braden Swinson out of LSU, played there the last 2 years. Prior to that, played 3 years over at Oregon. 6'4", 250 pounds, 22 years old, from Douglasville, Georgia. This past season, 13 games, 58 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 3 pass deflected, 2 forced fumble, and an 83.3 PFF grade. Second team all SEC. He's got good size. Again, 6'4", 250. He's a little light, but not too bad overall there. He's got at least the height that some of the guys who were the 240s didn't have. Active hands, good bend. So this is an agility guy. This is an athletic guy. Good hands, meaning he's got good move in his hands as far as getting off blockers. He's got good hands as far as popping them up to try to block shoot these balls down. He's got good use of them overall throughout the play, regardless of what his job is to do on that particular play. Doesn't have a great burst. He plays a little high at times as well. He's also, again, not very strong. He said not bad size, but he's still undersized there. He does have some trouble getting off some blocks as well. But again, you've seen success of him in Oregon, which is still, not bad competition there. But then a couple of years over at LSU against some of the best competition in all of college football. So I like him as, again, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but hate to keep saying this, situational kind of pass rush that you can try to develop into a starter. Third round.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of the next few guys. It's going to be.
It's a lot of the guys we've talked about here. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be a run, and it all depends on what your needs are and which one you have higher or lower, based on your particular defensive scheme and your positional type of defense. So, I do think though that, like I said, when I see a guy succeed at LSU, I'm okay with taking that kind of risk. It's a risk worth taking.
Yeah.
So.
You did it at the right school.
Exactly. All right, next up, Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina. Started his career actually at Georgia Tech. This is just the 1 year at South Carolina. Did 4 years at Georgia Tech prior to that there. 6'5", 254 pounds, 23 years old, from Flint, Michigan. This past year, 12 games, 28 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks, 1 pass deflected, 2 fumble recoveries, and a 77 PFF grade. Said not a bad year at all. And it's interesting for a guy who was just the 1 year there, kind of a guy that they really depended on a lot. Like I feel like that it's interesting to go in there and be basically the guy that's like the face of the defense right off the bat. 2024 SEC Defensive Player of the Year, the Bronco. I'm going to mispronounce another one. I feel like there's so many names trying to tongue twist me here today. Bronco Nagurski Trophy winner, consensus All-American, first team All-SEC, led the SEC in sacks as well. He's got great snap timing, high motor, good strength, poor agility though. Trouble disengaging from blockers, especially in the run game. Missed tackles and bad at coverage. So round 3, maybe even slipping into round 4. Because I don't think this guy, while he played good, again, SEC Defensive Player of the Year, I'm not trying to take anything away from what he did. But he won by doing things that aren't going to win him in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think he comes in as your situational pass rusher again. But I don't have much high hopes on him to develop into a starter. I think that's probably where he's going to stay, and just that's his role. You bring him in specifically on, third down situations, end of the game when you know it's going to be pass. And he's going to get to the quarterback sometimes. But he's going to make some really bad plays against the run. So you have to go ahead and make sure you got him in the right spot.
Yeah.
No. Trouble getting off blockers, missing tackles, not good spots for him. And again, not good at coverage. This is the pin your ear back and go get the quarterback kind of kid.
So you're going to have him on the right downs, third and long.
Yep. That's exactly where you put him. So, all right, 3 more to go. Next up, we got Jared Ivey out of Ole Miss, another Ole Miss guy here. So he played there the last 3 years. Played also 2 years over at Georgia Tech. So it's interesting. That's 2 guys now back to back that played at Georgia Tech together. 6'6", 285 pounds, 23 years old. Went to high school in Swanee, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. This past year, 12 games, 42 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 3 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and a 90.6 PFF grade. Great size, strong, physical, gets off blocks, decent pass rush moves. Slow burst, though. Loses outside contain. In other words, he's so focused on trying to get to the quarterback that he lets the quarterback run to the outside and just totally get past him. We saw that a lot from Kayvon Thibodeaux his rookie year. That's something some rookies just got to learn. I know you want to move inside, but if you move inside, there's nobody outside now. Like, they're driving you inside. They're giving you out inside because they know their quarterback can run outside. But again, this is another guy that you see a lot of positives on. My biggest issue with him is he does seem to kind of take some plays off. I got to question the effort a little bit because I've seen plays point blank where it looks like, is this the same guy? Like, what happened? He doesn't seem playing with the same kind of abilities. And it's not a conditioning thing. It definitely seems like just taking plays off kind of thing. And those guys, I question sometimes, do you love the game? Because if you don't love the game, you're not going to keep succeeding. You only get by with natural talent for so long.
Yeah.
This is one of those guys, like I said, interview process, very important. But I think somebody's going to think they can coach him right. Someone's going to think they can keep him engaged and active and everything going on. And they'll still probably go in that 3rd round.
Yeah, they'll take a gamble. I mean, this is also one of the guys I wouldn't be surprised drops to the 3rd day. Because, I mean,
I think just because where he comes from.
You got
he was
that
a small
too.
school guy, yes. But because of the fact he comes to the SEC and had success there is why I think.
Yeah, I mean, if we see on tape that, we take a step off during plays, I'm sure NFL scouts can see that as well.
Oh, yeah. And they're going to ask him. And his answer is going to be very important to whether or not they are intrigued at him.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Saving yourself in the NFL, or are you just saving yourself from the
saving yourself for marriage?
Yeah.
to an NFL team.
Well, I'm saying you take off this way you're not,
I get
taking
it.
a chance of injury.
I get it. All right. 2 more guys. Jordan Birch out of Oregon. Played there the last 2 years. Prior to that, played 3 years over at South Carolina. 6'6", 295 pounds, 23 years old from Florence, South Carolina. This past season, 10 games, 31 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 6 passes deflected, 1 fumble recovery, 1 forced fumble, and a 77.6 PFF grade. 3rd team All Big Ten. Ideal size, good hands, physical, high motor, good agility for the size. Does, though, have slow burst. So, in other words, getting off the line as they snap the ball there. Very key thing. Falls for play actions, which is just very weird. Like, you're in college. You've been in college for years. You should have figured this part of it out by now. You're 5 years in. That's something I have to question as far as football IQ and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's also got some trouble shedding blocks. I think this guy is going to be a 3rd-round pick, personally, still. I don't think he should be. I think he should be a 4th-round pick. But I think he's going to be a 3rd-round pick. And I think someone's going to see the fact that, again, he's got the high motor. There's people that just love high motor. They see a guy who's constantly moving around, constantly looking for someone to hit. And there's some coaches that point blank, that's their guy, immediately. They say he's coachable. He wants to play hard. I bet plenty of people that want to learn something that just can't. It's not me just trying to be a jerk about it. Like, there's some people, you could tell them things you're blue in the face. You can show them things you're blue in the face. Doesn't mean they're going to pick it up.
Yeah, some people just don't have that ability to learn.
Yeah, and guys who are, 23 years old, 5 years into college, still falling for trick plays and play action passes. I question it. I have to. Can't be legit, not question that. So, like I said, probably going 3rd, probably should go in the 4th. So, last guy we got here.
Oof, we did it, guys.
Ashton Gilotti out of Louisville. 6'3", 275 pounds, 22 years old from Boca Raton, Florida. 23 was 1st team All ACC, 24, 12 games, 43 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, 87.8 PFF grade. 2nd team All ACC. Good size, powerful, physical, high football IQ, high motor. You know where I'm already going with this, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Not a great athlete, stiff lower body, and also just lose containment with more athletic quarterbacks. This is, again, that little engine that couldn't kind of situation. He's got everything you want as far as locker room wise. He's the high work ethic guy. He's the guy who keeps going. He's the guy who's consistently trying to learn, trying to master his craft. Unfortunately, he just wasn't gifted with some of the physical tools that would make him elite. He's another guy who's going to probably go in the 3rd round. Another guy is probably going to be a situational pass rusher. That's where he's going to be. Again, he's a guy that you're not going to be upset you drafted because he's going to fit in well anywhere. He's going to be a guy that people in the locker room like working with. And hopefully what he does is infectious and, kind of goes off into the players there. But he'll never probably be a starter or probably never be elite. Unless he's that one guy no one sees coming. Happens every year. There's that one guy. I ironically enough, don't see it coming.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to all the comments real quick, guys. And then we're going to head on out here for the night. And we're back tomorrow. We still have 2 more episodes, guys, to give you all the rest of the scouting of the players here. And then keep in mind, next week's schedule is going to be a little different than usual because of the draft. So it'll be on Monday. We will not be on Wednesday. We'll be on Thursday. We'll be on Friday. And it'll be on at some point on Sunday. Rob and I still got to figure out that time frame. But we're going to give you guys a final recap of the draft, including going over all the day 3 picks on Sunday. So, like I said, we'll let you guys know when we have that part of it all figured out there. But just best way is hit the subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube, hit all that stuff, guys. You'll know whenever we go live. It tells you. My phone goes off for like 5 different apps whenever we go live. So I'm sure y'all will have the same exact problem.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have.
Great problem to have. Even my iPad goes off.
Exactly. So let's see. Jay says conspiracy theorist. I don't know what dumpster fire. I don't know what that part is even about. He says, is he light in the arse, injury prone? Yeah, that's basically what Abdul Carter is. That's for sure. He said he beat down a tow truck driver. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm hearing is. I don't know about beat down. I didn't see the full report, but you assaulted somebody who was just doing their job. And I don't know, I'm saying the guy was polite or anything like that. I don't know. I don't pretend to know. I don't need to know. There's no reason to go ahead and start beating up a tow truck driver. Point blank. So, let's see. I'm looking it up right now as we're talking here because I'm curious here. So, parked without a permit in a lot at Aspen State College apartment complex after midnight. So let's see. Tow company attempted to tow the vehicle. The alarm went off. That caused him to come outside. And Carter went back inside the money to pay a drop fee. But he called the police though, because he wanted to make sure it wasn't stolen, apparently. He wasn't so sure if it was an actual tow truck driver that was allowed to. Yeah, and then tow truck driver wanted information. He refused to give it. Yeah, this is all. I mean, it's all kind of crazy there, but this is what the police force is. So the driver grabbed a metal bar off the back of the truck. The tow truck driver, and told him to back away. When the tow truck driver got inside the tow truck, witnesses show that Carter wrapped his arms around the man's abdomen and forcibly pulled him multiple times to break his grip from the steering wheel. Like I said, this sounds like a really bad situation all overall.
Tackle and power.
Point blank. I'm not trying to say that the tow truck driver's in the right. I wasn't there. I don't know. All I know is anytime that you're having an assault charge on you over a tow, just get the car towed. Get it out of the impound. I guarantee you he's making enough NIL money. It was going to be no problem for him whatsoever.
Yeah.
If someone steals your car, call the police. If you think that's the scenario. Don't beat up the tow truck driver. No need for it. No need for it at all. And then Jay says the Giants don't really overlook character almost never. They really don't. You can say a lot about the Giants. They don't typically. And they've gotten guys with bad character. Don't get me wrong. Looking at you, Tony. They don't last very long. Because the Giants don't put up with it.
Or even become like someone of a loudmouth or, a character on the team. Usually don't last long.
No. And then Jay says, Dr. Bobby on the line when you were talking about Abdul Carter. Tijuana Drive. Barbarito. Hirsch for us, I want Abdul at number 3. Well, I said a lot of people do. He says, you don't pass up a generational talent. I still don't know how generational talent he is because it depends on how healthy he can be. Jay says, can I super chat Dr. Bobby, my E dysfunction questions? You can super chat him anything you want, Jay. As long as you give him money, he will answer any questions you have. Deb says,
let me tell you about your ED.
Deb says, Jay, who has characteristics Parsons or Carter? I didn't catch it. And then he says, yeah, we passed on Josh Allen, both of them. And he says, Carter does. Probably overblown. Deb says, okay, thanks. I hadn't heard of that before. Yeah. Like I said, it's not talked about very much, which is weird. I really think that's for a top-end talent. It's really weird that it's not talked about very much. Let's see. Jay says, both of you kind of hear they aren't well-liked by their teams. A little bit. Yeah, like I said, definitely you hear issues on both of them. Hirsch says, I'd be happy with Hunter or Carter. I said, that's the 2 biggest names I get. I don't know. I'm not that big a fan of these guys here. It's bad. I feel bad because it's like, I know I'm the guy who's kind of negative, but there's not a lot of guys in this draft that I'm like, this is the guy to get. Like, this is why I really wish we just trade back and get Mason Graham. Take the extra picks, build up this roster. You got a solid draft. Maybe get an extra pick next year if you're going to need a quarterback. Stop trying to force top picks when there's just nobody worth a top pick. Let somebody else make that mistake. You got an injury-prone, temper-ridden edge rusher, or you got a wide receiver / corner that never played any decent talent and is light as a feather.
Stiff as a board. Heyo.
I'm saying, not that great. So, let's see here. Jason, BK Bolt 2. It's just weird that these two prospects kind of have issues. Yeah, I guess I'm saying not a great one. He says, yeah, I can't say anything about anyone else's life. I spend too much time in chat rooms for the worst team in the NFL. Yeah, that's true. We're all kind of gluttons for punishment here. Let's see here. If we're talking before, but Shamar from Texas A&M, he said Oliver Vernon comp. Yeah, it's probably a decent comp for him there, you know. Bill, I saw your comments there as well. Bill's Mafia EO says you said 92.4 PFF score. It doesn't seem like y'all care very much for that scoring system. It's not that I don't care for it. It's a good judge, but it's one of the tools. There are some guys point blank that I feel like use everything. PFF, oh, this guy. PFF loves this guy. PFF this. PFF said that. They're not the end all. You know, we talked about it before where some guys, and I've said point blank, I don't agree with this grade, but this is what they gave him.
Yeah, especially like, you know, when you start talking about edge, and we've talked about 4 tackles, like they just, it's hard to gauge. You have to use your eye to gauge, how they're going to play.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the stats are misleading.
Yep. Jason, all these guys could either be set the edge 2-sack guys or go on in 5 years. 100%. And that's the thing. I feel like this is a spot for a year to get a guy that you need as a depth piece for the edge. I don't think it's the guy you go get the guy that's going to be the stud edge rusher. I don't think there's many really those guys. Carter's the one guy you can sit there and say that about. Other guys with the potential, but not as high a guarantee. It says, I need a high motor just to finish the show. Wow. Wow. Just mean. All right, guys. Well, that's going to call it a night for us here. But like I said, we're going to go ahead and be back again tomorrow. Like I said, going over more prospects here, this NFL draft. We got 2 more prospect shows to go over. As always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter /X. And, of course, Rob's favorite, my LinkedIn profile. And, as always, we're available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms as well. That's Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the big ones there. So if you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button. Tell a friend about the show there. And, as always, guys, we appreciate you guys for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow night. And, as always, Giants fans, go G-Man! Go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to 2 Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.